fantastical, so unpredictable, here on SNL Stats.
Yes, hello everybody. My name is Jon Schneider from SNL Stats, and I am so excited to talk to all of you on the Superfan Takeover. When we did the first Superfan Takeover, I said, you know what, I need a break. You know, we do SNL podcasts every week, so I need some of our best podcasters to come together and talk about all different things SNL. But now that it's the SNL off season, I hope these guys will, invite me onto their show and let me join them for a very fun episode. So I'm really excited to talk to each one of them. You know them very well if you've been listening to our coverage all season long. Before I get to them, if you haven't checked out last week's show, we had Nicole Rovine, Liz Shannon Miller, and Rebecca North talk about Girls 5 Eva. That is a show that is on Peacock and is really good. It just got renewed for a season 2. So if you want to hear their thoughts on the show and hear Liz's perspective, who spoke to the creator, the crew, some of the cast, it's a really fun show. So definitely check that out. But tonight we have a very exciting show for all of you. I'm sure you're going to enjoy it if you like some sports and drafts and all things SNL. So introducing our panel. First up, it is Andrew Haynes. Haynes, how you doing?
I'm doing excellent. It's tough to live life without SNL, but we have a great topic today, and I feel like we could do this honestly forever. Like we could go if we went through these cast members. It was hard to prepare for this because I could really discuss and try and rank cast members until the end of time. So I'm very excited about this.
Yeah, this is going to be very, very fun. I'm excited to do this with all of you. Joining us, he is one of the hosts of the Superfan Takeover. I'm just stealing his spotlight just for today. Sammy Kay, how are you?
I am doing well, John. We've had a lot of fun this season doing these Superfan Takeovers, and I believe in our first brainstorm sesh, doing some sort of draft was in the initial grouping of ideas that we had, and you were like, nope, we're saving that for the summer for when I'm taking over the takeover. So the time has come, and I'm excited to be here tonight.
Yeah, I couldn't wait to do this with you guys. I was excited all season about it. Also joining us, he is another one of the great Andrews we have. He always asks me to rank the Andrews, and I just won't do it. But Haskell, how are you?
I'm doing all right. Had to put on, half my Lorne Michaels cap, half my Mel Kiper cap for this one. So excited. We are in that little SNL drought. So excited to be back with the Superfans and just excited to draft some SNL cast members.
Yeah, this is going to be really fun. And the last member of our panel tonight, last but not least, it is Bill Kenney. Bill, how are you?
I'm doing well, John. Good to be back again with everybody. Putting my two favorite things together, SNL and sports, and going to come up with the best draft possible.
Yeah, so this is going to be really fun. Thanks for that, Bill. I'm so excited to get into this with all of you guys. So here's how tonight is going to work. I'm going to explain it for all of the listeners and for all the panelists involved. If you have ever done fantasy sports, you know what a draft is for fantasy sports. So you pick your best baseball, football, hockey, basketball, whatever it is. You pick your team and you see how that team does and you compete against your friends and you kind of like own those players. We decided to take that concept and apply it to Saturday Night Live. We thought about doing the current cast, but there's not enough there really. We thought it would be fun to go back from 1975 to now and draft our casts, each one of us, based on these cast members in their prime. So this is what we're going to do. We're going to go around. We're going to do a snake draft. So we're each going to pick a player or pick a person from the SNL cast and have them join our personal casts. We're going to go 7 rounds. So 35 cast members are going to be selected. We're going to go back and forth. And each one of the superfans here is going to pick someone on their team. You have to have 3 men, 3 women, and 1 weekend update, like an additional person. That will make up your 7-person cast, 7 obviously being the original cast size, minus George Coe and Michael O'Donoghue. So this will be very fun for us to do together. If you guys have any questions, if you're watching along afterwards, please send them to us on social media about how this worked. We're happy to answer that. And we're also going to be posting our teams once they're done on Instagram and on Twitter for you guys to let us know which team is the best. That's kind of how we're going to decide tonight which team wins. They're going to tell us which cast they would want as their SNL cast. So no pressure, guys. So this is how we're going to start things off. We're going to decide our order for the draft. I have a list right in front of me on my phone of all of our names. I'm going to randomize the list, and the person who is at the top will be selecting the order for the draft tonight. So I'm going to do that right now. And Bill, you are first. So, Bill, you have the floor. You can decide who is picking 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5.
Does anybody want to pay me off before we begin?
What's it going to take?
I will take myself third. John, since this is your show, you can go first. Sammy, since you got booted out of the host seat, you can go second. And we'll go alphabetical for Haskell and Haynes, 4 and 5. Haskell 4, Haynes 5.
Damn it.
How far down our names did you have to go?
Okay, so this is great. So the draft order is going to be, I'm going to be picking first. Sammy will be second. Bill will be third. Haskell will be fourth. And Haynes will be fifth. We will then do reverse order for the next round. So it's a snake draft. You go 1 to 5 and then 5 all the way back to 1 and so on and so forth. Okay, so I'm going to bring up something on screen. So if you're watching on the YouTube version, you can see, let me bring that up for you guys. Okay, guys, so if you look, we have up on screen the draft order. What happens is when somebody makes a pick and puts an SNL cast member onto their team, I will drag the picture up so you guys can follow along and see who is on whose team. So I will go first. What I'm going to do is, we're not going to get into every single cast member and talk for too long, but, if I'm going and somebody wants to comment on my pick, that is fine. So I'm picking first, and, I thought about this a lot. I thought there was a chance that whoever got this might choose me to go first, since I am, the creator of this podcast. And there's a few people that seem like obvious picks to me. I'm not going to say who they are because, maybe somebody falls to me all the way down. But I believe that there was one person who changed my mind about being the greatest cast member potentially ever. And I think I have no choice but to select them. This is definitely up for debate, but I really feel like if I have this person on my team, I cannot go wrong. So I am going to pick Mr. Bill Hader as the number 1 overall pick for this draft. I feel like the fans, there's other directions I could have go with this. I'm sure that Sammy, Bill, or one of you guys is going to take one of the other people I was thinking, but I really feel like the fans are going to love my team if I have Bill Hader on there. You can't go wrong with Bill Hader as a cast member. Guys, let me know. Anyone, raise your hand. Let me know. Was somebody else going to take Bill Hader with their first pick if he was on the board?
Yes. Oh, raise your hands. I'm already breaking the rules.
It's okay. You go ahead, Sammy. Tell me what you think.
It's like, okay, when Bill, did the order, I'm like, okay, I'm number 2. I've got a good chance of getting Bill Hader, for my first pick. And I'm happy to see that he's going first overall here. We've talked a lot about on the show how his era of SNL is the one that I grew up with, the one I started watching. So, even though I'm disappointed he's not going to be on my squad, I'm happy to see him going first overall.
Yeah, Haskell, did you want to jump in on that?
Yeah, pretty much same thing. I had 2 people that I felt kind of stand out above everybody else, and he was one of them. So yeah, he would have been at least I would have had to give it a lot of consideration.
Yeah, I'm sure we were all on the same page about this, which is why I'm surprised that Bill decided to go third, because I do feel like there was 2 people that stood out above the rest in terms of like overall complete package. But yeah, like I said, Bill Hader first overall pick. I feel like Bill can do impressions. He can be in any kind of sketch. He can do update. He could really be anybody. And to me, he is the perfect person to build an SNL cast around. All right, so Bill Hader is off the board. We are heading to the second pick of the first round. That's Sammy Kay. You are on the clock.
Ooh, all right. Well, after that, initial sort of disappointment, I'm going to pick myself up from my bootstraps. The person I'm about to pick, I was kind of going back and forth on a couple of these once Bill Hader was taken off the board. But this is someone who is an all-time legendary cast member, whose time on the show, you can argue he was the standout during his era, and is one that is still talked about to this day as one of the greatest cast members of all time. I'm not going to keep you guys waiting any longer. I am going with Chris Farley for my pick.
Wow.
Definitely. Yeah, I'm getting reactions already, from John over there. But Chris Farley, just going back when I first started watching the show, getting those SNL Best of DVDs. I think he was one of the first ones I got, and just seeing the way that he kind of commanded the SNL stage and was able to do anything for a joke and use his entire body, be the apex of a physical comedian. That's the type of energy I want to build around my cast for this draft.
Okay, so Sammy with the second pick picks Chris Farley. So let me bring him up onto Sammy's team. There you go. We have Bill Hader as the first pick, Chris Farley as the second pick. This is a really interesting pick, Sammy. I thought you were going to go in a different direction. I'm not going to say who it was, but I'm very interested in the thought process. I do think that Chris Farley is, obviously a legendary cast member. People still talk about him. When we had Adam Sandler host, naturally, very good friends, did the Farley tribute. He's still up on everyone's mind. So, Haynes, let me go to you. What are your thoughts on Sammy picking Farley?
Well, last night I was really close to settling on Farley. If I had the number one pick, I was very close to pulling the trigger on that. He is kind of in a three-way tie for first place for me for possible, greatest SNL cast member of all time. So a very, very serious consideration. It does surprise me a little bit that Sammy took him. I don't think I knew that that was exactly Sammy's style. I thought maybe he would be going a little bit different direction too. But the person that I did decide on for my number one is still available. So fingers crossed for me.
Okay. Well, Bill, before you make your selection and you are now on the clock with the third pick, did either were you going to go with Bill Hader or Chris Farley if they were on the board for you at number 3?
They would not have been my first pick, but they certainly were in the top 5 as far as the men on the list.
Okay.
Farley, yeah. I mean, what can you say about him? That's a great pick, and out of the blue, I like that, Sammy.
Okay, well, Bill, let me hear what your pick is, because I do want to discuss, if it is who I think it is, I do want to discuss, the differences between who Sammy picked and who you might be picking. So, Bill, go ahead. You are on the clock.
Well, with my pick, I'm going to go with the glue, the man who brought me into the show back in 1986, one of the best impressionists of all time, Mr. Phil Hartman.
Yes. Okay. So this is who I thought that Sammy was going to go with, Mr. Phil Hartman over here. Let me put him on Bill's team, and there you go. This is a obviously great pick. This is the one that I was struggling with. Am I going to go with Bill or am I going to go with Phil? Because I did really feel like these two were the glues of the show during the golden eras of Saturday Night Live. Nothing against Farley, but I just really felt like these two stood above the rest. Haskell, let me bring you in on this one. How do you feel how this draft order is turning out, and Bill going with Phil?
Yeah, so for me, the two that I were talking about was Bill Hader and Phil Hartman. It's sort of like in a regular draft, you sort of look ahead of you. Like an NFL team will look and go, our quarterback's not falling to us because there's somebody ahead of us that needs a quarterback. And that's how I felt. When I saw that Bill was ahead of me, I've listened to him talk a lot of SNL this year. I knew Phil Hartman wasn't getting past Bill. So really just rearranged my draft board going into that. So I'm ready for my pick?
Well, hold on one second. I was just going to say,
okay.
Bill, I do have a question for you. Did you know that Sammy wasn't going to go with Phil Hartman, and that's why you put him in the second spot?
I really did not, especially after our first conversation on the first Superfan Takeover, how much love we all had for Phil. I thought I was taking a risk there, putting Sammy ahead of me, but it paid off.
All right, Haskell, you are on the clock with the fourth pick of the first round. Haskell, who are you going with?
Yeah, I'm going with another guy who, first round pick, you have to have a guy who can lead the show. I'm going to go with a guy who really dominated the show when he was on there. My pick's going to be Will Ferrell.
Ooh, okay. This is a great pick. Can you elaborate a little bit more, Haskell, on this pick?
I think when you talk about people who are at their best on SNL and were starring in the show, there's a lot of people here that I had ahead maybe of Will Ferrell on my big board, guys like Bill Hader and Phil Hartman, but guys who were glue guys and worked really well with other cast members. I think Will Ferrell worked very well with a number of cast members, but on the reverse side of that, also just stood out in everything that he did.
For sure. Bill, let me go to you. What are your thoughts on this pick, Will Ferrell at the 4 pick?
The great pick, and it's one of the ones that I struggled with putting even ahead of Phil. I don't think he gets enough credit. You always hear about Eddie Murphy saving the show back in 1981. Will Ferrell saved this show in 1995. It was coming off what I consider the worst season of all time in season 20. They didn't know what was going to happen, and completely new cast except for a couple of people. And Will came out of the gates and killed it from the beginning. And it was clear that he was going to be the guy who carried the show into the new millennium. So great pick.
Yeah, really great pick. You can't go wrong with this top 4 right here. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of great SNL cast members coming up. Let's round out the first round. Andrew Haynes, over to you for the 5th pick of the first round.
Okay, so I told you that there was, I was kind of struggling with this 3-way tie for first place in my mind. And now 2 of those people went back to back. That was Chris Farley and Phil Hartman. And, like Haskell said, I knew Phil Hartman would not get past Bill. I was sure of it. But the one that I ended up deciding late last night, I said, if it really comes down to it, I think this will have to be my pick if I had all 3 of these folks on the board. So this is a person who, again, like so many of these people, can do everything. He can do impressions. He has the physical comedy, and he's an absolute dominant power player. Takes over the show in a good way, I think. And so I have to go with who I really believe may be the ultimate SNL cast member, Dana Carvey.
Yeah, excellent pick. I mean, you really cannot go wrong with Dana Carvey. He has, along with some of these guys who already picked, the most segment appearances in the history of the show. He's been around. He's obviously been a 4-time host as well. Sammy, let me go over to you. What are your thoughts on Dana Carvey being picked as the last pick of the first round?
Definitely a great pick. He was someone who, I was toying with him as well as someone, I would take, for my first pick. He's just so well-rounded in what he's able to do and bring to the show. Someone who I wish stopped by the show more often. I mean, he did his Biden impression again on Colbert this week and absolutely killed it. So, even many years after leaving the show, he still got it. So getting him at his prime, very solid pick, Haynes.
Absolutely. But Haynes, you do have back-to-back picks. You're going to start off the second round. So have you thought about who you want to take at the start of the second round, or should I go to the other guys first?
No.
Okay.
I have thought about it. Don't go anywhere.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah. So it did come fast. I almost forgot that I was going to have the first pick of the second round. So on my little chart, I've tried to rank these people, but when you get to the top group, there's a lot of it's hard to go wrong, So this is really, I think I'm gonna pull a little bit of a strategic move here, because I think that this is someone who probably would get stolen sooner than later for the Weekend Update desk. I don't know that there was anyone who wrote better jokes for the desk and has a better presence delivering jokes from behind a desk. In fact, I think that's the reason he never stands up for his monologue. I've got to take the great Seth Meyers.
Wow. First pick of the second round. Seth goes first pick of the second round. That's a crazy pick. I in my opinion, Haynes, just because I wasn't thinking to go Weekend Update this early, because, I want to round out my cast first, but let me bring in Haskell. Haskell, what do you think about this pick at the start of the second round?
I love Seth Meyers. I think he understands SNL better than anybody who has ever been associated with the show outside of maybe Lorne Michaels. But if you go to a live look into my war room, we are dancing on the table that Haynes took this pick, because not going to my pick yet, but I'm going to end up with 2 guys from my top 5 when we come around to my pick. So
okay.
I'm ecstatic.
All right, so hold off on that. Bill, let me go to you. What are your thoughts? The first Weekend Update anchor off the board.
I think Haynes just picked a kicker in the second round.
This was my strategy. I didn't want to treat him like a kicker, and I will say this before you finish, Bill. I'll just defend myself by saying I don't see Weekend Update as. I see it as one of the most core components of the show. It is a lead spotlight prime time. I think in a way, if you're on Weekend Update, you have been chosen as the de facto non-sketch star of the show, and that's why I felt like it was okay to go ahead and pull that Weekend Update card early. And I just had a feeling if it got to Weekend Update, that's someone that people in this group might be interested in.
Yeah, what I will say is that I don't know that the first pick of the second round is the place to take Steph. It's not Steph Curry, Seth Meyers. But what I am thinking is that there is a chance he would have gone before he got back to you. So if you really when you're talking about NFL drafts, if you really want somebody, you just got to take them. If you see your quarterback, you got to take them. So I think I understand where you were coming from, Haynes, over there. Let's, not tease this any longer. Haskell has somebody left on his board from his top 5. Haskell, who are you going with? You are on the clock.
I was already, I had like my list of like who's going to be now my leading lady, and I had to tear everything up because I thought this guy could have gone number 1. I'm going with Eddie Murphy.
Damn it. I was so hoping that Eddie would last all the way to me. That is a great pick, Haskell. Sammy, let me go to you. What are your thoughts on this pick?
There was no chance that Eddie was going to go, back to you. I mean, I'm actually surprised that he didn't go, in the first round. This is an awesome pick. He was honestly, just to take a look, behind, my thought process, I was in between him and Farley, for my first round pick. But, Farley is someone who, just from my experience of watching the show, I just connected more so. I think this is an amazing pick. He saved the show.
Yeah, for sure. And this is our first non-Lorne Michaels cast member to go onto somebody's team. So it'll be interesting to see how Eddie Murphy works with Will Ferrell on Haskell's team, how they, get together. As we start forming the teams, we'll start talking about how the casts are going to be working together. Bill, let me send it over to you. This is our third pick of the second round. Is there somebody high up on your board that you are ready to pick?
At the risk of picking too many from my own team, as in my cast, I have to go with who I consider the best female that's ever appeared on SNL, and that's Miss Jan Hooks.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting. Elaborate on that, Bill.
Especially in hindsight and, with her untimely passing as well, looking back on her work on the show at a time where females were not given the spotlight very often. It's not like today. It's not even like 20 years ago. She was able to go into the show, be in 6-7 sketches some weeks, and always kill it, whether she was doing an impression of Diane Sawyer or doing the Sweeney sisters or her unbelievable Tammy Faye Baker. She came at a different angle from everything that she did, and she killed it every time.
Yeah, you really can't go wrong with Jan. Obviously, she came back a few times after she was no longer a cast member. She was a special guest star, but we really missed seeing her on the show, in the last, whatever it was before she passed. Obviously, she did that spot on 30 Rock, but I really, that's one of those things when I was rewatching the series, really hoping that we saw more of Jan as she got older. I know that, I don't know what her health situation was later on in life, but obviously an incredible cast member during her prime, which is what we are picking now. Sammy, let me head over to you. How are you feeling about your draft right now? Do you have somebody on your board that you are so happy came to you?
I'm feeling okay. I'm going to admit, straight up, I was telling the guys earlier, I'm not a sports guy. So as far as drafts go and draft strategy, maybe I don't have as much strategy, but I do have, I have the heart of an SNL fan, and I'm just going to go where my heart kind of leans. And right now, for my next pick, I don't know if this is a surprising pick or a kind of shocking pick or all, because as you guys mentioned before, the Farley pick was a bit of a surprise, and I don't necessarily have a glue yet, but I think this person is a glue, and this person has had a ton of experience on the show, to the point where we're talking about these cast members in their prime. This cast member is still in their prime. All right. They're still on the show. The longest running cast member of all time. I am going with Keenan Thompson for my next pick.
Wow. That is really interesting. Haynes, what do you think about this? Sammy going with Keenan over here.
Well, Keenan is, obviously, glue's a good word for him. He's been around a long time. There's no one that could be, respected for his long-term presence on SNL any more than Keenan, but he doesn't even crack my top 10. And I am surprised at that early pick. I honestly am.
All right, well, let's talk about this a little bit more because Keenan, obviously the longest running member of the SNL cast ever. Bill, what are your thoughts on this?
I like it. He was kind of a dark horse for me. I don't think he would have made it this early for me either. But I mean, you look at the amount of people that he's worked with on this show, and he could be depended on every week, a quarterback, if you will, not knowing that he'd come out and whatever you asked him to be in, whether it was one sketch or 5 sketches, he was going to bring the funny every single time. So, and still does. So, great dark horse pick.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. I love Keenan Thompson. I've loved him, back from when I was a kid and watched him on Keenan and Kel. Like I love and all that. Like I love Keenan so much. Do I think that there were other players on the board? Do I think that maybe Keenan would have landed back to you, Sammy, after me? Probably. So I do think that there were other players to select in this position, but I do understand you're not a sports guy. So we'll see. I would love to see what people think about a cast of Chris Farley and Keenan Thompson together. I'm sure we would get some great sketches from the two of them. So it is time for my pick, the last pick of the second round, and then I have a pick following that. So, this is someone I was hoping would land to me. I wasn't exactly sure if this person would, but I'm glad that she did. This, to me, is the glue girl of Saturday Night Live. This is somebody who I think, I'm looking at the way these teams are coming together, and it reminds me a lot of Bill's team, where in the second golden era of the show, we have Phil Hartman and Jan Hooks, and I'm going to go with Kristen Wiig here to complete my Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig duo. So, Haynes, I see you shaking your head. What are your thoughts?
I mean, I knew that was who you're going to take as soon as you said greatest female cast member of all time. That's who I had ranked highest. Female on my list, and she's an amazing, incredible pick. I should have I'm not sure I should have taken her instead of Seth Meyers, but they both bring a lot to the table. Obviously, like you said, you're kind of building, a cast of folks who have spent a lot of time together. So we at least know that your cast will have chemistry. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I can go back and think of all the Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig sketches together. They are just two incredible performers. Haskell, what are your thoughts so far on this pick? And let me know where your head's at after 2 rounds on all the teams.
An amazing pick. To me, the greatest female cast member of all time. The fact that she got to that point to fall to you with that pick is an incredible for your team. I think it's some interesting teams so far, but there is some talent that I think is about to go in the third round.
Yeah, I'm really excited. And you know what? I'll just we'll start the third round. I am now on the clock for the first pick of the third round. And this is somebody who is so talented that it's hard to believe they lasted all the way for me at the beginning of the third round. This is, I believe, our first pick from the original cast of Saturday Night Live. And I'm going to go with Mr. Dan Aykroyd, who to me is the original Bill Hader. This guy can do impressions. He was on Weekend Update. So, for all you NFL fans out there, this is kind of like he's in my flex position. I don't know. Could he end up being my Weekend Update person? I'm going to have to see who lands to me later. So I'm really excited to have Dan Aykroyd on my team. Bill, let me go to you. Thoughts on picking Dan Aykroyd here in the third round?
Not only the original Bill Hader, yes, the original glue. The things he was able to do. He jumped into the fray when Chevy left, him and John both, and killed everything that he was in. The best pitch man of all time of SNL, I would argue, and half of the Blues Brothers. So great pick.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Sammy, let me head over to you. What are your thoughts on this right now?
I also think it's a great pick. Dan Aykroyd. It'll be interesting to see, in this hypothetical scenario, him kind of working with, Kristen Wiig and Bill Hader, who obviously, spend so much of their time together on the show, as cast members together. So definitely an interesting pick. And I do like your kind of strategy with having a bit of a flexibility there with, he could be your update, he could not be. And that might be a strategy that I, put in my pocket for a later pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look, that's going to happen. We obviously had some, people later on in their careers just ended up staying as update people only. But for me, Dan Aykroyd was on Weekend Update for, I believe it was one season. He was on Weekend Update, and he, I always think about point counterpoint, and I just am excited to see what he would do with somebody like a Bill Hader and Kristen Wiig. So, Sammy, I got your thoughts, and you said, you're thinking about flexibility, where you're going to go in the third round. Let me head over to you. You are on the clock.
All right, thank you very much, guys. I'm starting to realize that maybe I'm not very good at drafts. I don't know, but I am for this next pick. Again, I'm going with my heart. This is someone who is a part of this current era of the show, and is every time she shows up on screen, I get excited. And the characters that she's brought to the update desk, to different sort of situations on the show, she's just all around a solid cast member. Maybe I'm taking her too early, I don't know, but I think she's one of the best female cast members of all time. I'm going with Cecily Strong for my next pick.
Wow, very interesting pick over here. Haynes, what do you think about going with Cecily here in the third round?
Well, you guys have heard me say over and over that she might be my favorite current cast member. I really, really love Cecily. I love everything that she does. I've said it 100 times, probably much more than that she puts so much into her characters, just so much force. She is a whirlwind, and she can also, she can be funny in a lot of different ways, but she takes on so many different types of characters and is a true broad range performer who it doesn't necessarily, she only steals the scene when she needs to, because she can also be a great player in any other type of sketch. And so I think I love Cecily a lot. I love Cecily a lot. I was hoping that she would be someone I could get my hands on a little bit later. But that's how drafts work.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Bill, we have over here a team of Chris Farley, Keenan Thompson, and Cecily Strong. Obviously, Keenan and Cecily have experience working in sketches together, but it's interesting to see how these teams are starting to form.
Absolutely. And, when you think about drafts like this, you always want to think how these people would work in any era. And you can see Cecily working in 1995, 1985, 1975. So that's the true earmark of a great SNL cast member, an all-time SNL cast member. Great.
For sure. Well, Bill, you are now on the clock for the third pick in the third round. Are you going to go with somebody who is in the same cast as Phil Hartman and Jen Hooks, or are you going to head to a different era of the show?
I will head to a different era for this pick. Can't believe he lasted this long. The original wild and crazy guy, not that guy, Mr. John Belushi.
Yeah, can you elaborate on that? Give us your thoughts on picking Belushi for your team.
He's so well known for the characters that he did, like Samurai, Joe Cocker, the Blues Brothers, of course. He doesn't get enough credit for playing the straight man in so many sketches with Bill Murray or Gilda Radner. He was able to go into any sketch and pull it off. Same with, doing commercials. Little Chocolate Donuts, one of the best commercials of all time on SNL. And first musical guest, him and Dan Aykroyd, that were cast members at the same time. So,
yeah, that's so true. Haskell, let me go to you on this. What are your thoughts on Bill's team coming together? Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks, and John Belushi.
Great team coming together, Bill. I do feel like I don't feel like I'm playing fantasy football where it's like the pick I'm about to pick keeps going right before me. Belushi, really good. Just like wasn't on my radar when I was not just ranking people, but then kind of trying to form casts out of it. So obviously amazingly talented, deserves his spot in show history, but wasn't really on my radar.
Okay, well, that's totally fine. I mean, Belushi is definitely a little bit of an enigma. I know that there's people who go back into the history of the show and start talking about, was Belushi, the best cast member to work with at the time. But certainly if you're talking about his, him being on screen, he is a very powerful person in the history of the show, and obviously a legend that was gone too soon. So, Haskell, you have the fourth pick in the third round. Who are you going with to add to your team of Will Ferrell and Eddie Murphy?
Yeah, I'm going to dip into another era of the show, and I'm going to keep this third round run of, original cast members going. As I jump around different eras, I need people who are timeless. This person definitely is timeless. And for my money, is the best original cast member. I'm going with Gilda Radner.
Damn it.
Yeah, damn it. So I was really hoping she would go later on. Haynes, audible reaction from you. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I'm looking at my, list here, and that was probably going to be my next. I was really just debating between Gilda and someone else. She so has mastered that combination of, awkward and sweet and loving, but like goofy and insane. She kind of hits every note. And there's a reason that, she was one of the people who started this show that has lasted, getting close to 50 years now, that we all love so much. And it's a fantastic pick for him. It's a terrible pick for me.
Yeah, I'm sure. But I mean, obviously, Gilda Radner, the original darling of Saturday Night Live, like everybody obviously loves Gilda and her crazy characters that she had. She almost hosted the show once, which would have been, something that we all really would have loved to see before she left us. But really just, when you go back, I always think about the Emma Stone, Rosanna Dana that we saw a few years back, which is like a nice tribute to her. Would be very interesting to see how she would do with a Will Ferrell and obviously Eddie Murphy, who came pretty quickly after her. So great team you're putting together, Haskell. Let's round out the third round. Haynes, I know you were struggling. Have you figured out who you're going to pick with your last pick of the third round?
Well, I think maybe that someone that I've got close to the top of my list right now, and I'll tell you, I'm not drafting in a way that I'm trying to create the most, mainstream all-star team that like the media would pick or something. I'm not just going through people who, have huge best of collections. I'm really trying to pick a cast that, reflects me and the type of comedy that I love. So I'm thinking about making a very dramatic pick. I've got two of them, so I could waste one, or I could see how long it lasts. I'm really building the drama. Here.
Yeah, Haynes, you have two picks back to back, so you can end up going with both of them.
I know, but I'm still thinking that I could get this person in the fifth round. So I am going to go with. I'm going to go with another really big time impersonation person. They had a huge impact on the show. They were on the show a very, very long time. So I guess I'm getting my guys out of the way early, but for me, this is someone who I almost love almost as much as Phil Hartman in a similar way, maybe because of all the impression talent. I'm going with Daryl Hammond.
Oh, wow. Okay. Interesting pick here. Can you elaborate on why Daryl Hammond?
Well, he like I said, he's a master impressionist. That's something that I love in an SNL cast member. I believe that every cast member should be a great impressionist. So that, that's why Dana Carvey was my first pick. You can see, like I said, I'm building a cast. I think that is going to have, you were going to be able to touch on a lot of bases. Daryl Hammond has been around so long. He's done so much for the show. 14 seasons and, just doing the doing the announcings. And he's just a guy who I don't know how he can be undervalued, but I'm honestly surprised that he made it all the way to the very end of the third round. This is someone that I have just always seen as such a major power player. And, one of the people that really, really helped me fall in love with SNL in the late 90s. Yeah.
For sure. And then you also have a voiceover person that can basically do any voiceovers for any of your sketches. So he for sure completes that. Obviously, we've seen Daryl span multiple eras, starting with the Will Ferrell era and going all the way through the Seth era or partway through. So I think that it's a really interesting pick and obviously a dynamic person. And I know you said you got all your guys, but, Seth can be your weekend update person. So you may have one more guy to add to your team. Before we get to your next pick, Sammy, let me get your thoughts on Daryl Hammond being chosen by Haynes.
Definitely, wasn't someone that I was necessarily looking to pick up. Obviously, what can be said about Daryl Hammond? I mean, master impressionist, definitely brings that skill to the table. But I do find it interesting because, having Dana Carvey and Daryl Hammond on your team, it's almost like, Dana maybe could have covered that base for you. So it's interesting to see those two together. I mean, the way that they could play off each other in sketches with, different impressions would be great. I just think, just looking at your squad, I think that's an interesting move.
For sure.
I want my squad all offense, baby.
Yeah, definitely. So let me just recap the teams. We're 3 rounds through. We're going to go 7 rounds total. So here are the teams so far through 3 rounds. My team, John's team, is Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig, and Dan Aykroyd. Sammy's team is Chris Farley, Keenan Thompson, and Cecily Strong. Bill's team is Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks, and John Belushi. Haskell's team is Will Ferrell, Eddie Murphy, and Gilda Radner. And Haynes' team is Dana Carvey, Seth Meyers, and Daryl Hammond. Let's start the 4th round. Haynes, you are on the clock.
So I did consider taking this person in the weekend update slot, but she is just such an amazing sketch performer. And I'm, again, surprised that it's the 4th round and no one has touched on the incomparable Amy Poehler. So I'm just going to go ahead and snag her now and put that on the board.
Yeah, Haynes, this is a great pick. This is somebody that obviously, if Amy lasts to me at the end of the 4th round, I'm definitely finding a way to take Amy Poehler on my team. I think from the moment she was on the show, she just was incredible. I actually think that, we can have another podcast about this sometime, but I actually think Amy Poehler is underrated as a cast member, considering the notoriety that, and I mean this in a positive way, but like the notoriety that Kristen Wiig and Kate McKinnon and Cecily Strong and Adie and all the people that came just a little bit after her. I do think that now people don't, they think of Amy Poehler, they think of Parks and Rec, but she was just such an excellent SNL cast member. Bill, let me go to you. Thoughts on Haynes' team and picking Amy over here?
I love that pick. I wouldn't have picked her this early, only because there's a couple of other female cast members that I would have went with first, but you're absolutely right. She's so underrated for her time. She was on the show for 7.5, 8 years. Was able to do anything. I think she fell into the background quite a bit until she got Weekend Update, and then was able to take that and run with it. And then, of course, the Hillary impression. So yeah, that's a great pick.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Haskell, what are your thoughts on Haynes' team? I know that you stole somebody from Haynes. Did Haynes steal anybody from you?
Yeah, if anybody saw when he made the pick, if you saw me look down, I was literally crossing out my big board because that was my next pick. Not only so the I think you just added value to your Seth Meyers pick by getting Amy Poehler, because I know we're picking one Weekend Update person, but in this fantasy world that we're creating, of course, you would pair those two up on Weekend Update. So that value of Seth Meyers, I think, just went up. So that's like a double pick. Love the pick.
Yeah, absolutely. Haskell, let me send it right back over to you. I know that Amy Poehler was just stolen from your big board, but do you have somebody else up there that you are very excited to take in the 4th round?
Yeah, so in my strategy, give you guys an idea on my strategy, I had 2 people that I would take in the 4th round for Weekend Update. This is where I had Weekend Update earmarked. If I couldn't get one of these 2, if they were already gone, I would have waited till the end and picked somebody else up. I have what I feel like is a really goofy cast right now, and I'm going to kind of cut that with a very dry Weekend Update. If personally, to me, Seth Meyers might be number 1. Then this guy is, if Seth is 1A, this guy's 1B. For Weekend Update spot, I'm going Norm Macdonald.
That is a perfect pick, obviously, for Weekend Update. Can you just elaborate a little bit more on your thoughts on Norm?
Yeah, I mean, it's just such a almost change of pace to the show. Like I said, that dry wit that he had. On top of just being on Weekend Update, also, I think a very underrated cast member in the sketches that he was in. Obviously, outside of Weekend Update, probably most remembered for Celebrity Jeopardy. But I just think I can anchor a show built around Weekend Update with Norm Macdonald, and we are not going to fire him this time.
Yeah, absolutely. Sammy, thoughts on Norm Macdonald going over here?
Yeah. So once Seth was off the board, Norm Macdonald would have been my, next pick for Weekend Update. So, back to the drawing board over here. I think it's certainly a great pick. And yeah, I mean, I would love to see, in this alternate reality, Norm not being fired from Weekend Update. So if you can guarantee that happening as the Lorne Michaels in the scenario, I'm down. I'm down with that.
All right, guys. So I am putting Norm Macdonald on Haskell's team over here. So Haskell's team right now is Will Ferrell, Eddie Murphy, Gilda Radner, and Norm Macdonald. Bill, let's head over to you. Who is your fourth pick in the fourth round?
I feel like I just watched the best wide receiver go off the board, and now I'm kind of sweating that I'm going to be able to get it. So I'm going to switch up my game plan a little bit and go with my Weekend Update. This was my OG Weekend Update anchor, despite what he's done since. Dennis Miller saved Weekend Update in 1985. It had gone through 4 or 5 years of really bland vanilla Saturday Night News and all these different iterations with different anchors. He came on, brought a sarcastic wit, and was able to make everything funny, no matter how bland the joke was. So Dennis Miller goes fourth round for me.
Yeah, so just obviously you mentioned it, but just to reiterate to all of our listeners, we are picking the cast members as if they are in their primes on Saturday Night Live. So just in case you're wondering about someone's experiences off the show, obviously really great pick for Dennis Miller. If you haven't gone back and seen some of Dennis Miller on Update, I think that Norm, obviously went Dennis Miller, Kevin Nealon, Norm Macdonald, but people go back and they watch a lot of Norm Macdonald on Update, OJ stuff, but I don't think enough people go back and watch Dennis Miller on Weekend Update. Haynes, what are your thoughts on this pick? Bill going with Dennis Miller over here.
Absolutely shocked, blown away by this pick. Dennis Miller hadn't, and I've, obviously enjoyed, him at the Weekend Update desk, but I didn't anticipate anyone, approaching him this early on. There's been a lot of talent at the Weekend Update desk. And I did like the way that he used to end his Weekend Updates. What was it that he said, Bill? I forget exactly what it was, but it was something along the lines of like,
guess what, folks? That's the news, and I am out of here.
Exactly. Yeah. The guess what? Yeah.
He was sign the paper and sign off.
Yeah.
That's right, Cha-Cha.
Yeah, and I think honestly, we're making a lot of comparisons to NFL drafts. Obviously, Dennis Miller, a former host of or a former announcer on Monday Night Football as well, so he could definitely fill in on anybody's football team. But really interesting to see as our teams are, getting mostly done. Haskell, were you going to say something there?
If you heard him on Monday Night Football, then you're not going to want to fill it in.
Yeah, exactly. I believe it was. I think it was Jimmy Fallon who played him on in a sketch as well. Bill, did he play him in a Monday Night Football sketch, or was it somebody else who played him in the Monday Night Football sketch?
No, it was the Monday Night Football sketch.
Okay.
Daryl Hammond was Al Michaels.
Yeah. So very funny sketch to go back to if you are a football fan. All right, Sammy, did I give you enough time? Are you ready for your fourth pick?
John, I am ready. I guess I can make an easy pun here and say I'm not ready. For primetime play. I don't know. The pun kind of threw that out the window there. But I'm looking at my cast here, and I do think it is missing some 1970s flair. And definitely as I'm looking at some of your guys' strategies, flexibility could be kind of key here in the fourth round. So this is a guy who in his prime, hilarious. But is also still, killing it to this day. I'm going with Bill Murray.
Very, very good pick, Sammy. If you didn't take him, he definitely would have gone off my board. Obviously, a big Cubs fan, he had to have been on my team, but I understand you going with Bill Murray over here. Haskell, what are your thoughts on Sammy going with Bill Murray, completing his team for now of Chris Farley, Keenan Thompson, Cecily Strong, and now Bill Murray?
Might be the steal of the draft to this point. The fact that he's this late. And he was he's floated on my lists and has floated off my list, but the steal of the draft so far.
Wow, that's a great. So Sammy, for somebody who didn't know how to do any fantasy drafts, that is a great a reward for you.
There's a method. There's a method to my madness.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, a lot of singing talent on your team. So I see like a lot of musical sketches between Keenan and Cecily and Bill Murray. So really interesting. Let me round off the fourth round of our draft as we're moving forward. So, this is someone I'm a little bit surprised hasn't gone off the board. I really felt that, when we were in the third round, Sammy, and you were saying that you were going to pick somebody, a female from the current cast, I was like, okay, this person's gone and there's no way that they're going to get back to me. And guys, I'm going to go with Kate McKinnon. I don't know how I'm getting her. I think this is the steal of the draft, in my opinion. Nothing against Bill Murray, but to get Kate over here, to pair Kate with Kristen Wiig, who a lot of people said that Kate was the Kristen Wiig replacement, and to have a team right now of Bill Hader, Dan Aykroyd, Kristen Wiig, and Kate McKinnon, I feel like we got a lot of star power over here. Bill Kenney, let me head over to you. What are your thoughts on my team so far?
Oh, you took my next pick, John. Kate is just unbelievable what she's been able to do and how long she's been on the show. The unenviable task of having to replace Kristen Wiig, brought in a couple episodes before Kristen left to kind of ease her into it, and she killed it. It didn't matter. She came out and just started doing unbelievable sketches right from Jump Street, and has done it for 8 years. And can do anything, never thought in 2012 you'd be seeing Kate McKinnon play Rudy Giuliani, but here we are, and do it well. So, she's definitely up there for the all-time female cast members of all time.
All right, guys, so I got Kate McKinnon up on my board. So here are our teams after the fourth round of the draft. 3 rounds left to go. My team is Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig, Dan Aykroyd, and Kate McKinnon. Sammy's team is Chris Farley, Keenan Thompson, Cecily Strong, and Bill Murray. Bill Kenney's team is Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks, John Belushi, and Dennis Miller. Haskell's team is Will Ferrell, Eddie Murphy, Gilda Radner, and Norm Macdonald. And Haynes' team is Dana Carvey, Seth Meyers, Daryl Hammond, and Amy Poehler. So we have 3 rounds to go. Remember, everybody, that you have to have 3 men, 3 women, and 1 person to play on Weekend Update. So I am starting off the 5th round. I am on the clock. And, this is really tough because I feel like I have some really good performers, and I didn't want to take too many people from the same era. I wanted a good mix, but there's somebody on the board that I just feel like I cannot not take. I know that this guy is going to go, and he's not going to get back to me in the 6th round. So I am going to go with Jason Sedakis at the top of the 5th round. I do believe he is totally underrated as a glue guy of the cast. You think about other glue people that have obviously gone earlier in the draft, but to me, Jason Sudeikis is an absolute must-have on any cast. People have been waiting for him to host. We've been talking all season about, is he going to host in season 46? Now we're looking towards 47. I cannot wait for the day that Jason comes back to SNL. Haynes, what are your thoughts on this?
Obviously, I agree that he's underrated, even though I think he's very well loved by the SNL community. And certainly, I think there's a good chance we'll get to see him host. He is a great utility player who can, move around and be in a lot of different types of sketches with a lot of different folks. And I think it's a great pick. Based on what I've heard folks on this podcast say about Jason Sudeikis, I'm a little bit surprised too that he's made it to the 5th round here.
Yeah, Haskell, what about you? How do you feel like the value is on this pick, Jason Sudeikis, at the start of the 5th round?
It just goes to show how many incredible cast members there are throughout the years, that you get somebody that talented this late, and then once you said his name, it kind of sparked some other cast members and that he would work well with. So there's just so many great picks left.
Yeah, absolutely. So, Sammy, heading over to you, the 2nd pick in the 5th round. Where are you going to go? That's Sammy Kay.
Well, John, I just want to thank you for earlier when I picked Bill Murray, mentioning the musicality, the singing prowess of my cast, because now that's kind of the theme I'm going with here. So for this next pick, she is someone who, kind of like Amy Poehler, I do feel is a little underrated. And, we've kind of seen her, I feel like get more of the recognition that she deserves over the last 2-ish years, coming back in cameos and almost feeling like a member of the cast this season. and I'm going with Maya Rudolph. It seems like Haskell he's walking out, but I'm going with Maya Rudolph for this pick.
Such a good pick. And Sammy, if you didn't take, I was really debating between either going with Kate or Maya, and I ended up going with Kate because I just wanted to see that Kristen Kate combo. But I do believe that Maya Rudolph was gonna go, and this is a great place to take Maya Rudolph there. Haskell, obviously, you had a big reaction. If you guys aren't watching the video, we basically kicked Haskell off the podcast for a second as he ran out of the room. What are your thoughts on Maya Rudolph in the 5th round?
I'm heartbroken. I started peeking ahead too much, and I was like, that would complete my cast if I could get Maya. I thought there was a slim chance that she was going to fall 2 more picks. I mean, she's, maybe underrated for her time on SNL. And then is kind of as a host and as a cameo, is getting the recognition that she deserves. But she's as good as anybody who's ever done it. Yeah,
absolutely. Haynes, your thoughts?
Well, you all know how I feel about Maya. She is the ultimate, player. I call her Goddess Maya. She can do it all. She was, fantastic as a host, obviously, when she came back this year, even though it wasn't one of the most highly rated episodes, but she's a person that can be in every sketch and it doesn't bother you. So it's a fantastic pick. Can't say anything negative about Maya Rudolph. Absolutely love her. Love the pick, Sammy.
Yeah, for sure. Bill, before we get your pick in the 3rd round, where is your head at? Do you have people that are near the top of your draft board that are left there, or are you struggling to, figure out who you're going to pick now?
I feel pretty confident with my last 3 picks. I think I'm going to get just about everybody I'd like to.
Okay.
I'm a little upset about losing Kate, but I feel pretty good.
Okay, I cannot wait to hear who this is, because if you feel confident that you're picking in the middle of every single round, so you feel that none of us are going to take your picks, that is going to be interesting to see. So, Bill, why don't you let us in on your secret? Tell us who you're going to take as the 3rd pick of the 5th round.
I think he goes underrated, which sounds crazy considering his career post SNL, with his incredible movie career and stand-up, the most anticipated return to SNL before Eddie Murphy, Mr. Adam Sandler.
Yeah, very, very good pick over here. Sammy, what are your thoughts on Bill taking Adam Sandler in the middle of the 5th round?
It's funny because, what can you say about Adam Sandler? He's probably tied with Eddie Murphy and Will Ferrell as like the biggest stars to come out of the show. Obviously, his time with SNL, was kind of cut short along with Farley's. But seeing him, looking at your cast, I think he definitely fits nicely. And gives a different flair, kind of a youthful energy that will kind of ignite your cast, and I think it's a solid pick.
Yeah, for sure. And then also, Bill, you're basically Jan and Phil, they also crossed over with Sandler. So you have that. And Dennis Miller was Sandler. I think it was right after Dennis Miller, right? But
his first couple weekend updates were with Dennis Miller, yes. Yep.
Yeah, for sure. So you definitely have some crossover there. So a good 70s, 80s, early 90s flair on your team, which is an interesting perspective to draft with, obviously, Bill, as your experience with Saturday Night Live in that era. Haskell, so I know we've been taking a lot of players off your draft board. How confident do you feel in your 5th pick, excuse me?
This is my first pick where the person wasn't just like, there weren't flashing lights around it. Like, this person is the person that fell to me. So with that being said, I have some thinking to do in terms of where I want to go next. One thing that I feel like I'm really missing in my kind of goofiness and some absurd energy that I have is a straight man. And I want kind of a flexible straight man. So I'm going to go with what I feel is my first real reach of the draft, and then I'll come back. But I'm going to go with the Iceman, Chris Parnell.
Wow. Really interesting pick over here. I actually had him on my board as well, thinking maybe this would be somebody I could take in the last round, obviously a guy who did voiceovers. Parnell had a really interesting career. Obviously capped it off with being in Lazy Sunday. That was huge for him, as, for the newer era people to remember him. But, for those who don't know, he was actually fired from SNL at one point and then rehired. But really, when he joined the show, he was in almost as many sketches as Will Ferrell. He was just like all over the show. So it's a great pick and somebody who can do voiceovers and really do impressions. So I think that is a great pick. Haskell, Haynes, let me ask you, what are your thoughts on Parnell going here?
Parnell is a great character actor. He can do so much. Obviously, we've seen that on SNL and so many things afterwards. He's been on a ton of TV shows with, a lot of former SNL cast members, and he always excels. I've never, ever been disappointed by Chris Parnell. He can be dry. He can be explosive and silly. And I also had him right here in the next couple picks. So that's a really great pick.
Yeah, I also think to myself a lot about Parnell. For those anyone who's a big Friends fan, I think about him on his episode of Friends when he was working with Chandler. That was always just like a really big memory for me as well. So really interesting team you are putting together, Haskell. Haynes, you have back-to-back picks over here. Let's start with your first pick, the last pick of the 5th round.
I have learned over the course of this, I'm not sure I enjoy the pressure of these back-to-back picks, but I do know who I'm taking in the 5th round, and I have been set on it for a little while, even with all the great talent coming off the board. And that's the thing about only picking 35, cast members, is they're all amazing. But I want to bring in someone who was a fantastic utility player, but also a true talent in his own right. I really did not mean for this cast to come out so 90s and early 2000s. But if you saw my notes, you would see a lot of balance and what I hoped I might be able to get my hands on. But I'm going to pick someone who just really was very dominant in the 90s, was on for 10 seasons, and was one of the people that I fell in love with very early when I was watching SNL from the. Well, you look like you're dying, John. For those who aren't watching the video, this guy was amazing in the early 90s. He was amazing in the mid 90s and the late 90s. He could be a straight man in a scene and played the reasonable, character, just being surprised very well in a hilarious way. But he also was a great star of sketches, including, one of the first ones that sucked me in as a young, silly 13-year-old boy in The Ladies' Man. I'm taking Tim Meadows, utility player Tim Meadows.
Oh, damn it. I was just praying that he would get to me. I did not think that. Yeah, I just thought he was so under the radar. Like he has been, like you said, 10 seasons on the cast and, came back like a couple times, but really, a lot of people don't realize how good Tim Meadows was on SNL. And I was just really praying that he would land to me later on. It is a great, no worries. It is a great pick. Haynes, Bill, let me come to you. Thoughts on Tim Meadows getting selected here?
What an interesting pick, especially right after Parnell. When you talk about utility guys and the history of the show, he was definitely up there, and probably the most interesting career arc on the show. His first 5 years are so unmemorable. Almost got fired with everybody else except for Spade going into season 21, and somehow saved his job, and nobody at the time could understand it from what I remember. And he really brought it at the end of that, the back nine. So yeah, great pick, Haynes.
For sure. And Haynes, you have another pick here. So you have right now on your team, I'll just recap at the end of the 5th round. Haynes' team is Dana Carvey, Seth Meyers, Daryl Hammond, Amy Poehler, and Tim Meadows. Haskell's team is Will Ferrell, Eddie Murphy, Gilda Radner, Norm Macdonald, and Chris Parnell. Bill's team is Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks, John Belushi, Dennis Miller, and Adam Sandler. Sammy's team, Chris Farley, Keenan Thompson, Cecily Strong, Bill Murray, and Maya Rudolph. And John's team is Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig, Dan Aykroyd, Kate McKinnon, and Jason Sedakis. So at the start of the 6th round, 2 more rounds to go. Haynes, I believe you have selected, you have 4 men and 1 woman, Seth being your update person. So you have 2 more women to select. Who are you selecting?
I know exactly who I'm selecting now, and hopefully this other person will be undervalued enough that I'll be able to land her in the 7th round. And I told you guys, I'm not just trying to pick the biggest famous stars. I'm picking a cast that represents me and what I love about SNL and the type of talent that these unique players bring to the stage. I am going with someone who I laugh at every single time, and Amy's going to love to have her good friend, Rachel Dratch.
Wow. Really interesting pick here at the start of the 6th round. Sammy, what are your thoughts on Rachel Dratch, start of the 6th round?
Not exactly who I thought you were describing, but definitely fits the bill. Rachel Dratch paired up with Amy. They kind of dominated, that era. The 2 of them from a female cast member perspective, and someone who still to this day, whenever she pops up in the show, in the Tina Fey universe, I love to see her. So I think it's a solid pick. And what round are we in? We're in the 5th round or the 6th round?
We're in the start of the 6th round.
Yeah, solid pick, definitely.
Yeah, speaking of fitting the bill, Bill, what are your thoughts on this pick?
I did not see that one coming, but what a great pick. To go along with Maya, it was the first seamless transition in the history of the show with new female cast members coming in, replacing kind of iconic people in Molly Shannon and Sherry O'Terry. And both of them coming in and kind of just killing it right from the start. That's a great pick.
Yeah, absolutely. So Haynes' team right now, he is 1 player away from completing his 7-person cast. Haskell, over to you. How is your board looking?
I had Dratch right there as well. For me, I'll maybe finish his tease a little bit. I'm going to pick somebody probably more well-known for Weekend Update, but has proven, in sketches, even a few sketches, while they were on the cast, and then especially since being on the cast or coming back, the person who I think is as influential a voice in comedy today as anybody else, I'm going with the great Tina Fey.
Okay, really interesting pick over here. Haskell, can you elaborate a little bit? Tell us your thoughts on Tina Fey as a cast member and as a Weekend Update host.
Yeah, so for my team, I'm still going Norm at Weekend Update. I'm taking Tina simply as a sketch performer. Even if she didn't have the most experience as doing sketches when she was on the cast, I think this is simply a case of like a rising tide lifts all ships. Like if you have Tina Fey, in your writer's room, on your cast, in your locker room, you're going to get better as a team and as a cast. So I'm so ecstatic to get her this late in the draft.
So this is the interesting thing, Haskell, is if you had to put 1 person at the update desk, are you putting Tina or are you putting Norm? Because you're going to have to put one of them in sketches.
I'm putting Norm at the update desk.
Okay, so Tina will be in sketches along with your other cast members, obviously. Ferrell, Murphy, Eddie Murphy, Gilda Radner, and then Chris Parnell, Norm at the update desk, and Tina Fey. So that is in the 6th round. Haynes, what are your thoughts on Tina Fey going here?
Well, Tina Fey is someone that I gave a lot of thought to in the process leading up to today. She has so much value as a writer that I was just really attracted to getting her in the cast, to know that I have her in that writer's room. She's, 30 Rock is one of my favorite shows of all time. I just love her, the way she writes jokes, the pacing, the style. As far, people always kind of pair her and Amy together. I think Amy, and I hope Tina wouldn't be offended by this, I think Amy blows her out of the water as a sketch performer. Although, of course, her Sarah Palin is incredibly well received. It helps that she looks a lot like her, when they get the hair done up and the glasses on. But I was thinking about Tina constantly just because she brings so much power to the quality of the sketches, even the ones that she's not in, although probably many of that she writes she would put herself in. But just having her in the writer's room brings so much value to the show. So I think it's a really powerful pick. He said, Haskell, you said Amy kind of lifts up Seth for me. I think Tina lifts everybody up for you. So it's just a great pick.
Yeah, and you also have a head writer, on your team. So you know that you're going to get some good sketches in there. I think it is a really good pick. And also, speaking of, Sarah Palin and people looking alike, I was going through the list and my eyes kept going to Julia Louis-Dreyfus, who I know played Tina Fey in the live episode of 30 Rock whenever they couldn't be in the same scene together. So I thought that was funny to point out. All right, Bill, over to you. We're in the middle of the 6th round, looking to round up your cast. I know you said you had people that you thought were going to land to you that you weren't sure. I wasn't sure if they were going to. Did anybody take your person over here?
No, they did not. I'm going with bringing a little bit of youth to my team. We've discussed on this very podcast how underrated she could be at times, falling right in the middle of the end of the Wiig era and the beginning of the Mckinnon era. So funny in everything she did. Going with Vanessa Bayer.
Honestly, very, very underrated pick. I do believe that, she could be one of the most underrated people in the history of the show, which is why this pick is so interesting. Haynes, can you elaborate on going with Vanessa Bayer over here?
I do think she's an undervalued pick. There's so much obvious talent, in trying to go through this top 35. I admit I wasn't sure she was going to make the cut, but she can do so much. She can be glue. She can be a star as well. And she has huge range, to go with that big, bright smile. And she's a great pick. No doubt about it.
Yeah, and I do believe that the great thing, we're talking about people in their primes on the show. I don't really know what Vanessa's prime on the show was, because I think she was great from the moment she got onto the show, and she really developed. Like, you saw her get older throughout her time on the show, and then get more, almost she became like a little bit of a different cast member as she got, as she finished her time on the show. You think of her starting with the Miley Cyrus stuff and then going all the way through the Totino stuff. Like, I just feel like she has such a good range of cast members. It's really too bad she's not more highly regarded in terms of the history of the show, because I think she's an excellent cast member. So really great pick, Bill, over there. Sammy, over to you, buddy. Where is your head at going into the 6th round?
I'm a wreck right now. Vanessa Bayer, not to, tread old water too much, but, on our Mount Impressmore podcast, I raved about her, and I was happy that she was able to make the Mount Rushmore, for her Miley Cyrus impression. So very disappointed that I won't be able to scoop her up here. So it was a little bit of a scramble. I did give myself some flexibility with both Bill Murray and Cecily Strong as Weekend Update anchors, but I think I'm not going to go in that direction. For my Weekend Update anchor, I'm looking at who is available, and I'm thinking if this person was able to do update.
Wait, sorry, Sammy. I just want to tell you before you make your pick, just in case, you can put Bill Murray at the update desk, so you don't.
No. I understand that. I understand that.
Okay.
I'm saying.
Sorry, I just wanted to make sure it's clear.
Yeah. Yes. I'm just saying I've decided I want him in sketches as opposed to update. But
okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So this person is, obviously there's recency bias, but I do think when we look back on the show, the energy that this person brings to the desk and the willing to kind of go for the joke is and not be afraid to say something that the audience isn't always going to like. To have him solo on the update desk is really fascinating to me. Probably would be a Norm Macdonald situation where maybe he doesn't last super long, but I'm going with Michael Che as my Weekend Update anchor.
Okay, I did not think you were going to say that, but that is really interesting. So, okay, so you're going with Michael Che as your pick in the 6th round. Obviously, Michael Che, experience with Keenan Thompson and now Cecily Strong, and now Maya Rudolph, obviously been on the show a lot. So, Bill, what are your thoughts here on Michael Che going in the 6th round?
Yeah, looking at all the update anchors, I I was surprised how high I had Che. I try to avoid recency bias because, it's easy to look at the last couple of years and go, oh, I really like this person. But he fits in any era. You can just see him sitting at the desk with Dan Aykroyd, or you can see him sitting at the desk with Norm or Tina. And he'd be funny in any of those eras. And I think if anybody leaves the show after this year, if he leaves, that will be the most devastating blow. So yeah, I like that pick a lot.
Yeah, it's a really good pick, Sammy. Haskell, what are your thoughts on this pick over here, Che going in the 6th round here?
I like it. He's come a long way. Like you guys have both said, like his sort of I don't give a bleep attitude has defined part of this era of the show. As much as I would like, if him and Jost, whenever they leave, if they leave together, that'd be great. I would not mind a season or two if it was just Che at the Weekend Update desk. I'd be very interested to see that. And in Sammy's fantasy world, we do get to see it. So how cool is that?
Yeah, that is very true. I am struggling here. I'm really trying to figure out who I'm going to pick in my 6th round and start of the 7th round. So Haynes, can I go over to you for a second for some thoughts on Che while I just figure out my choices?
Sure. Well, I've already talked about my one of the people who I consider maybe my favorite on the show right now, and that was Cecily Strong, and Michael Che's the other one. As Andrew was saying, he's got that, he doesn't give a F attitude. I love that at the Weekend Update desk. I love people who are genuine and authentic at the desk. That's why I liked Colin Quinn a lot, even though he would constantly stumble over his delivery and not be particularly great at getting through the jokes sometimes. But I loved authenticity, and I think that's what Michael Che's got, and that's part of the reason that he's kind of tied for one of my favorite people on the show right now. I think it's a fantastic pick.
Yeah, I'm honestly, in retrospect, guys, I really wish that we did more rounds because I didn't know that this was going to go so quickly, and I was concerned about it going too long for the listeners. But because I'm just struggling. There's so many good picks left on the board. I know that everybody agrees that there's just so many good SNL cast members. I think I have to prioritize just rounding out the best possible team, the team that I think or the cast that I just think people are going to look at and they're going to be like, wow, that is a really, really good SNL cast. And I was debating between someone else who I can put on Weekend Updates and pull Dan Aykroyd off of it. But I believe that Dan Aykroyd can handle my Weekend Update stuff. He's just so dynamic, and he can also be in sketches if I needed him to. But he's going to be my update person. And I have to select one more female, one more male to round out my cast. So I'll start with the end of the 6th round. I'm going to go with somebody who I know it's not come out yet, but I was on the SNL Hall of Fame podcast arguing that this person should be in the Hall of Fame for SNL. So I can't not pick them and put them on my cast. And they have a lot of experience with some cast members over here. So I know we're going to get some good content. I'm going to go with Mr. Andy Samberg over here as the end of the 6th round. So Haskell, how do you feel about my value here on Samberg?
Incredible value. He was ahead of, it was him and Chris Parnell for me a few rounds ago. Simply for me, it was like kind of straying a little bit away from the silliness. Again, we talk about people who quote unquote saved the show. And when he came to the show, I don't know if it needed to be saved the way other eras needed it. But I mean, SNL Digital Shorts, again, defines an era. It changed SNL. And in some ways did bring SNL back on a wave that in some ways I think they're still riding and they don't want to give up. So, I mean, to get him at that point, incredible value.
Yeah, and Bill, I know we did a whole podcast on digital shorts. So obviously, we love everything that Andy's done on the show. But what are your thoughts about me getting here in the 6th round?
It's one of those guys who at the time, I don't know he was appreciated as much on the show. Everybody thought he was funny. The digital shorts were fantastic. But because of his lack of being in sketches, doing only things like Blizzard Man and things like that, I don't think, but as Haskell said, looking back on it and the left turn that the show took, having digital shorts and finding a way to get past the TV Funhouse era that had completely played itself out, he doesn't get enough credit for that. So, yeah, great pick this late.
John, can I add one more point?
Always, yeah.
You coming away with Hader, Wiig, Sedakis, Samberg. Middle school, high school me is so jealous right now.
Yeah, well, you guys could have picked them, so that's all your faults for letting me get this team together. But honestly, so that's our the end of our 6th round. Let me just go over the teams one more time before we finalize our teams in the next round. So my team right now: Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig, Dan Aykroyd, Kate McKinnon, Jason Sedakis, and Andy Samberg. Sammy's team is Chris Farley, Keenan Thompson, Cecily Strong, Bill Murray, Maya Rudolph, and Michael Che. Bill's team is Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks, John Belushi, Dennis Miller, Adam Sandler, and Vanessa Bayer. Haskell's team: Will Ferrell, Eddie Murphy, Gilda Radner, Norm Macdonald, Chris Parnell, and Tina Fey. Haynes' team is Dana Carvey, Seth Meyers, Daryl Hammond, Amy Poehler, Tim Meadows, and Rachel Dratch. I'm glad I got that all right. That was a lot of names to say really quickly. All right, let's start our final round going into this. Like I said, I wish we could add more people, but we're doing original cast size. And for me, I have been debating back and forth between 2 women all night. And if this other person doesn't go, then I'm going to say who it is at the end. But I believe that the person who I'm going to pick is better for my cast. So that's the person I'm picking. I believe that she fits in better with the cast that I ended up with. But the person who I'm not picking was probably a better SNL cast member. So that's where my debate is. And that's what I'm struggling with. But I feel that to fit in best with this cast, I'm going to go with one of my favorite cast members of all time. And I know that she's not everybody's, but I do believe that she was excellent on the show and should have come back since then. Give me Jane Curtin to add as my last cast member. And what this allows me to do by putting Jane on my team is that I can have Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin, one of them, at the update desk, and I could even do some point counterpoint. One of them can come on and they can go back and forth with each other. So that's where I really felt like I had to go to round up my team. All right, Bill, I know you're a big fan of the original cast of Saturday Night Live. What do you think about this pick at the start of the 7th round?
I am in the middle of watching the original 5 again, and watching her at the update desk for the 100th time is just such a delight. Filling in for the crazy Chevy Chase when he got hurt and then when he left partway through the 2nd season, and doing it with such grace, finding a way when women weren't on real newscasts, never mind a fake newscast on a comedy show on Saturday nights. And she did it for 4 years, which was a record until Dennis Miller. So yeah, she and plus all of her sketch work was incredible. She was always the hostess, Joan Face, dealing with people like Irwin Mainway. So great pick, very underrated cast member from the original series.
Yeah, and I had a really interesting experience with Jane, which I'm sure that some of our listeners can relate to. I was a huge Third Rock from the Sun fan. I don't know if any of you guys like that sitcom, but I loved that show, like back then. And when I started Saturday Night Live and I went back into the 70s, I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize that these were like, this was this person. And I was so excited to see her on there. And I really just if I was like a high school guy in the 70s, like I would have been in love with Jane Curtin, as just her being on the show, and she was so talented on there as well. So really, to me, very underrated in terms of the history of the show. Haynes, any thoughts on this one?
I love Jane Curtin, and she was right at the top of my list in many of these rounds for different reasons. But I ended up, I did end up with Seth Meyers at the desk. I was watching an episode the other day where I don't remember who hosted, but it was the episode where Dan Aykroyd gets a phone call at the Weekend Update desk that his mother's been in a terrible crash or something, and he runs off the set, and she gets to take over Weekend Update, and there's this glint in her eye, and that smile is so. It's so endearing, and she brings a lot to the table. I love Jane Curtin in a lot of ways, but just that moment recently that I had with her just reminds me of what a likable person she is, and she's just been so awesome in everything she's done. And great pick. Any cast, obviously, incredibly lucky to have her.
For sure. All right, Sammy, over to you for the second pick in the final round of the draft. Who are you going to go with to round up your cast?
This is difficult. For me, there's two people in my head for my last female cast member to round out this cast. As you've been talking, I've been going back and forth on this last pick. I do, before picking this person, want to give a shout out to someone who I was confident I was going to find some way to get, onto my cast that I, neglected. If I can go back in time, I would maybe do things a little differently. I do want to give a shout out to Bobby Moynihan. So if you guys are lucky enough to scoop him up, I'm jealous. But I think I've decided who I'm going with. Just the opportunity to have this person as a part of a trio of Maya Rudolph and Cecily Strong. These are three women who I'm pretty confident they didn't overlap on the show. The person I'm going to be picking, none of them overlapped, but the idea of them as kind of a trinity in this cast definitely intrigues me. And just overall, a fantastic sketch performer. Was probably the female star of the show. During her era. I'm going with Molly Shannon for my last pick.
Very, very interesting pick. And Molly had a really great career on the show. She actually started in the 20th season of the show, which is not highly regarded. And they brought her back and gave her a chance. And obviously, she proved to them that she was an excellent cast member throughout the history of the show. That wasn't the person that I was thinking of. So I'm going to hold off on there by saying who that is. But really great pick over here, Sammy. Haskell, what are your thoughts on Molly Shannon going here?
So since I took my last pick, my board was Rachel Dratch, Tina Fey, Jane Curtin, Molly Shannon. So they've kind of gone on a run. So that's for me, best talent available has gone in these last couple of rounds.
Yeah, Bill, what about you? What are your thoughts?
Well, Sammy just made my last pick very easy because I was going back and forth between Molly and one of her castmates. And Molly was always considered, if Chevy and Gilda had a baby, it would be Molly Shannon, because just the way that the physical comedy that she did, the way she threw herself into everything, didn't care how hurt she got or what happened to her. Great pick and part of the renaissance that's gone on since season 21.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. And I think the person you are about to pick is the person that I was considering between. So I'm interested to hear that pick, Bill. So with your final pick in the 7th round, Bill, who are you picking?
I'm going with the crazy, manic Sherry O'Terry.
Oh, wow. All right, go ahead. Yeah.
She was just such a crazy cast member at the time. Was considered when hired was going to be the superstar along with Will Ferrell, and did well enough on the show. Unfortunately, her career after has not been, but we're talking about time on the show. And for those 5 years, she killed it in every sketch with Will, with Daryl, with Molly. Brought everything to the table. Sherry O'Terry.
Yeah, Haynes, you had a big reaction over there, so let us know your thoughts.
Yeah, this one hurts. I'm really glad that she's not, I guess, as undervalued as I expected her to be. But honestly, I have her right at the top of my board. I couldn't believe she went this long. I thought about taking her back, when I was taking Tim and Rachel, but I thought that she would last to me. I didn't know that she was as appreciated as she should be. I have always, that we've got cast members who are always likened to the people who came before them. We say, Farley wanted to be Belushi, and Davidson wants to be Sandler. I've never heard anyone say this before, but to me, I've always thought Sherry O'Terry is almost like a second coming of Martin Short. She is so explosive and spastic and powerful and fun. And I thought she was going to be the perfect person to round out my cast. And I have no idea who to pick now.
All right, so we're going to give you some time. You have the final pick in the draft, so we'll give you some time to figure that out. I do believe that for me, guys, I loved Sherry O'Terry on the show. I think she was excellent in her prime. She is one of the biggest question marks for me in terms of like what happened to Sherry O'Terry. Like I would have loved to see her come back. She's never come back since she left the show in 2000, I believe. And it's just very surprising because she had such a great, powerful run on the show. And then, you would think that the time to have her back would have been in the 35th anniversary of the show, which was the Betty White episode. And her whole cast, like of women, was there. And there was no Sherry O'Terry to be found. And that's one of those things. If we ever do a, Superfan Takeover or some type of show where we're talking about like what ifs in terms of the history of the show, I know you guys did the Time Machine, but in terms of like cast members and what could have happened, I just really wonder, was there something down the line that went wrong between Sherry O'Terry and the show where we could have gotten her back many times since then? Because I do believe she has the Martin Short personality where she could be as great as she was. So moving on to the penultimate pick, Andrew Haskell, you have one more person to add to your team. You are on the clock. Let us know who you are taking with the 4th pick in the 7th round.
Yeah, just one editorial note. I do think for Sherry O'Terry, there were some personal issues that impacted her career. I think her father was murdered. Wow. That was a big story that kind of impacted her and then her career. So I do think there are some more unfortunate circumstances there. As for my pick, I have one more female cast member spot, and I went to a lot of different places. I went to kind of the 3 newer female cast members that kind of led the way this year. I went to a couple other cast members, but I think perspective in comedy is really important. And I wanted to go with somebody as I round out this cast who might have a different perspective than the rest of my cast. Somebody who's completely, I think, again, underrated, but I thought was phenomenal when she was a cast member. And I'm going to go with Nasim Pedrad.
Wow, that is a very interesting pick. Don't just leave us, Haskell. You got to explain this pick to all of us. Tell us about your opinion on Nasim Pedrad joining your team.
Yeah, so I think, first thing with perspective, we're seeing with her show, Chad, she does have kind of a different perspective, and she's telling the story now, of growing up with a Middle Eastern family. And so, again, there's that perspective side. But I thought she was just so much range as a cast member that they didn't really always explore. She was really good at playing sort of like a kid or like a teenager. She was also great at playing like, an airhead type character. And we saw that sometimes in her Kim Kardashian impression, but also can play like a straight man character, somebody who's like really fed up with somebody or just thinks somebody's an idiot. So I'm actually really happy to round out my cast with her because I think she can play off a few of my other cast members really well.
Sammy, can I get your thoughts on Nasim? This is, to me, a very fascinating pick. I did not think she was going to get picked tonight.
She was someone that, like, looking at these later rounds, and I was looking to, bring a female cast member onto my squad. She was definitely someone I had an eye on. I also think that Nasim Pedrad is someone who I'm really happy to see kind of get the opportunity now to, with her new show, share her perspective. And, we do, I think it's come up a lot in some of our Superfan Takeovers, kind of about that, that missing generation of cast members between, the Wiig and Samberg era and the era we have now. And Nasim Pedrad is right up there with, kind of a missed opportunity in a sense for the show that, looking at your cast, I think, in this alternative universe, and I think she could thrive in this cast.
For sure. Well, it all comes down to this. Haynes, you have the final pick in the draft. I am so excited to hear. You can pick from any cast member that is left from any era of the show. I guess you have to go female cast member, but any female cast member in the history of the show. Who are you picking for the last pick in the draft?
So I am actually thrilled with this pick. And I was thinking about her a lot yesterday, and somehow she didn't get properly arranged on my board. When Bill took Sherry O'Terry, I didn't know who I was going to pick. I really thought I was out of all my favorite ladies, but there is someone who I don't think she's underrated. I think people understand how powerful and awesome she is, and she has a huge range. She's great in sketches. She can do impressions. She is an ultimate power player, and she spent a lot of time with Molly Shannon and Sherry O'Terry, and that is the amazing Anna Gasteyer.
This is such a good pick, Haynes. This was the person I was debating between before, and I was surprised. I know I love Molly Shannon, Sherry O'Terry, and even Nasim Pedrad, but this was the person that I felt like was a no-brainer to add to any cast. She is so good on the show. Bill, what are your thoughts on Anna Gasteyer going here?
Oh, what a great pick. Talk about season 21 being the Renaissance. Nancy Wall didn't quite fit in, and Anna Gasteyer coming in season 22 kind of cemented what that cast was going to be, and maybe from top to bottom the best cast of all time, from one to the bottom. So and Anna Gasteyer was the final piece of that puzzle to me. So great pick, very not underrated, as you said. Had a lot of great characters with Will and her Martha Stewart and delicious dish. Great pick to end out the draft.
For sure. And, obviously there are some, you may be listening and you may say to yourself, well, what about some of the, current cast members that are, could end up being really big stars, your Heidi Gardners, your Ego Nwodoms, Chloe Finemans, people who really stepped up this year. For us, we haven't seen their full careers yet, so it's hard to judge what their primes would be. So that is, I believe, why we went with, mostly people who are not in the current cast. But I guess before I ask, before I read out the final teams, and this is what I'm going to do, guys, I'm going to ask you all to sell your teams to the listener. So I want you to think of a pitch of, why your team is the team that should be picked as the best cast that you put together. But before I do, I just want to go around and ask you guys if there was anyone on your board that you really wish you could have picked, but you didn't end up doing that. So let me start with Sammy. Was there anyone on your board that you wish you could have taken, but didn't end up on your team?
Sure. I mean, I touched on it before, and I'll reiterate it. Bobby Moynihan is someone who I personally have as one of my favorite cast members of all time. And it is interesting to see him not get picked up at all. But someone who is the type of utility player that we talk about, who they don't necessarily need to be the focal point of the sketch, but they can come in and say a line and absolutely kill. So he is someone who I'm bummed no one picked, including myself. I can only blame myself.
Yeah, for sure. Obviously, Bobby, a great cast member in the history of the show. So, Bill, was there anyone that wasn't picked tonight that you really wish could have been on your team or on somebody's team?
I wish we could have found a way to get the original star, Chevy Chase. His tenure was so short, but it was such a bright tenure. The only name that was known pretty much for the entire first season, since he got to say it on Weekend Update, and everybody else was kind of in the background for the host. And his career afterwards, of course, was incredible for a while, and then not so incredible. But yeah, that season and a half that he was on the show kind of put it on the map, and it's a shame that he didn't get picked.
Yeah, I definitely thought when Sammy was going with Che and he said somebody who was a little bit controversial, I thought he was going with Chevy over there at that pick. Haskell, what about you? Somebody on your board that you wish you could have taken but didn't end up going?
Robert Downey Jr., no doubt. No. I have two people that they're kind of tied. Their time together they spent a lot of time together. I think they came in together and they would fit really well with your cast, John, and that's Will Forte and Fred Armisen.
Yeah, for sure. Those are two people that I was going to mention. Will Forte is the hardest person for me not to pick onto my cast. Obviously, a big Will Forte fan over here. Okay, going with Haynes. What about you? Anybody on your board that you wish you could have taken?
Well, it feels like we're right back in the draft again because it was Fred Armisen for me. I had him right at the top of my board. I don't know how none of us took him. I ran out of male spots, but that guy is just such an incredible character actor. Obviously, as everyone knows, he can just fall into he can really do anyone, any type of person, male, female, from anywhere with any accent. So Fred Armisen is the one that I'm really surprised didn't find a way into this.
Yeah, and I'll just add a few more to that. I mean, Joe Piscopo, somebody who I felt really could have gone at some point in the draft and didn't. John Lovitz, who I am a big fan of his time on the show. I'm sure if he had some more rounds, would have gone. Jimmy Fallon, didn't go at all. I know that people have some problems with him laughing on the show, but I do think that's overblown a little bit. He did have some really great sketches on the show. And then Aidy Bryant, I do think that, obviously Cecily and Kate went, but Aidy is a really great cast member in the history of the show, and she will be remembered for doing a lot of things on the show. So I did think about it, but I was like, you know what? I can't fill my cast full of Aidy and Kate sketches. I just can't do it, guys. I'm sorry. So obviously there's some really good cast members that weren't selected. If we ever do this again, maybe we'll do it with some more cast members, but I think that probably the next thing we'll do, maybe next summer or something like that, we'll put together our all-time host lists or something like that. We'll find a good twist on what we're doing right now. But this is what's going to happen. So we have selected our final cast. I'm going to ask each of our panelists to read out their final cast and tell you, the listener, why their cast is the best cast that they could have selected for Saturday Night Live. And we're going to have a vote. We're going to talk about it after. We're going to put this out on social media, and you're going to tell us which cast you liked. So we'll go in reverse draft order, if that's okay. Haynes, I will start with you. Tell us why your cast is the best cast and let everybody know who you picked.
Well, I picked Dana Carvey, Daryl Hammond, Amy Poehler, Tim Meadows, Rachel Draft, Anna Gasteyer, and at the Weekend Update desk, the amazing Seth Meyers. Some of us, I think, took kind of different approaches to this. John, I think when you were in round 6, you said, I'm trying to pick a cast that the audience is just going to go, wow, I can't believe, that you put these people together and what an amazing ultimate cast that is. That's great. I really wanted to pick kind of a cast that spoke to me, a dream cast for my weird, nerdy, type of humor. And so I wanted lots of impressionists, and I wanted character actors. I didn't need some big star that was on the show for a couple of years and then had a bunch of, hit movies. And that's why I went with Dana Carvey. Obviously did become a little bit of a movie star. And Amy Poehler's they've all had success in their own right. I mean, Seth hosts a late night show, but when you get folks like Dana Carvey, Daryl Hammond, Tim Meadows, Rachel Dratch, Anna Gasteyer, and then the way Amy was just such a force on the show back in the day, I think you're really combining a group of an ensemble who's going to work off of each other. There's no one star that's going to stick out. I think this is and sketch comedy is a ensemble, forgive me, John, ensemble art. I think you said it in your Quebec accent last time. So I really, but I'll stick with my English here. So I was looking for a beautiful, balanced ensemble cast, and I think this might be my cast might be the ultimate team cast, and that's why I picked them. And I wanted to create the ultimate team cast, and but because I see the Weekend Update desk as so important, I wanted to pick someone who was just absolutely unstoppable, and I'm not sure really can be beat at the Weekend Update desk. Bill said, I think you just took a kicker in the second round. If you think the Weekend Update anchor on SNL is a kicker, then I don't think you understand SNL or football. So that's why I love this cast.
Yeah, really, really great pitch, Haynes. Great ensemble you put together. So, Haskell, heading over to you. Pitch the listeners on why your cast is the best cast.
Yeah, so I got Will Ferrell, Eddie Murphy, Gilda Radner, Norm Macdonald, Chris Parnell, Tina Fey, and Nassim Pedrad. Starting at the top with Will Ferrell, I think he said it best. 3 best ofs. I do think I was gifted 2 first-round picks. I think I was gifted potentially 2 top 4, top 3 picks with Will Ferrell and Eddie Murphy. 2 guys that were just stars of their era. looking at my draft, I feel like my first 3 picks, I drafted 3 quarterbacks. Then I drafted, like I said, if he's not the best Weekend Update anchor of all time, he's tied for first. And then at the end of the draft, for my quarterbacks, I got them some, shifty running backs, some wide receivers, a tight end, like great comedy minds, great team players, versatile people. So, I think, Haynes was taking his shots at, Will Ferrell's career and Eddie Murphy's career being movie stars. I think I got the guys who can lead the show and can be incredible at it. And then I also filled that in. And I think I have a great dynamic of both.
Okay. Well, the listeners will definitely be deciding. Bill, give the listeners your pitch on your cast.
I've got Phil Hartman, Jan Hooks, John Belushi, Dennis Miller, Adam Sandler, Vanessa Bayer, and Sherry O'Terry. One of the fantasies of a SNL superfan is, what would these people do in different casts? How would they meld together? And I think seeing somebody like Phil Hartman work with Vanessa Bayer, and John Belushi work with Jan Hooks or Sherry O'Terry, and Dennis Miller anchoring the desk and carrying that sarcastic wit through the 12:30 time, I think it's the perfect cast, and that's it.
Okay. All right. Short and sweet and to the point. And I like that, Bill. So that is very interesting. Sammy, heading over to you. Give us your cast.
Yeah. So my cast is Chris Farley, Keenan Thompson, Cecily Strong, Bill Murray, Maya Rudolph, Michael Che at the Weekend Update desk, and Molly Shannon. Guys, disregard what I said before about how I'm not a draft person. I don't know how to draft, because looking at my team, I think, I somehow maybe fumbled the ball at certain times from, an outsider's perspective. But I think what we have here is Chris Farley as, someone who, the energy that he is going to radiate, being on this cast is only going to make everyone else even better. Keenan Thompson, longest running cast member of all time. He has experience working with so many different eras of the show, going back all the way to 2003, where he worked with Maya Rudolph. And today he works with, Michael Che and Cecily Strong. So I think he will have no problem fitting in with the great Bill Murray, who, just taking a look at the original cast, is someone who is probably my favorite of that bunch. Maya Rudolph. We talked about the musicality that this cast that I've brought together. Think about the performances. We bring in John Mulaney to host. We can have an insane, dinner lobster or lobster diner sketch. Imagine that sort of thing. Michael Che at the update desk. You never know what he's going to say, who he's going to upset. And finally, Molly Shannon as the final piece of the puzzle. Someone who's just an all-around great sketch comedian. I don't know where this cast is going to go, but I think they're going to make some good sketch comedy together. So that is my team.
Yeah, really great team, Sammy. And I would love to see Nick the Lounge Singer perform at Diner Lobster. I think you made a great point over there. So, guys, Bill mentioned it. He said, the Superfan Takeovers. I know I'm new to the Superfan Takeover, but it's really, the Superfan Takeover is for your imagination. It's, a lot of what if scenarios and thinking about different things. With my team, you don't have to do that. What you see is what you get. That this is gold for Saturday Night Live. We're talking about some of the best cast members in the history of the show. We have sketches upon sketches of Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig, Jason Sedakis, and Andy Samberg all working together, let alone Kate McKinnon, who has dominated the most recent era of the show and has obviously had experience with all of these cast members. And then to round it off, I'm bringing in 2 of the original cast, the first golden era of the show, in Dan Aykroyd and Jane Curtin, who I think have had excellent chemistry in everything they do. Obviously, my cast, to me, you can just see it. Bill Hader, Kristen Wiig, Dan Aykroyd, Kate McKinnon, Jason Sudeikis, Andy Samberg, and Jane Curtin. Just hear the names and think to yourself, that is the cast that I want to move forward with. All right, guys, this has been so much fun to do with all of you. Let me stop sharing the cast over here and let's round up off for the evening. So I had a lot of fun doing that. Haynes, let me start with you. How was your evening drafting?
This was very fun. Maybe the most fun was getting to defend ourselves at the end and hear people make their arguments. That was a kick. I almost wish we had more time to talk about each of the picks, but we're at 2 hours now, so we could have easily made this show a lot longer. It was fantastic. Just to all the memories that come flooding back. Thinking about all these cast members, it's just unbelievable how much talent has come through this show. I've said it before. I'll say it a million times. There is no greater platform for comedy in the Western world. And, the proof is in the pudding. I mean, we ran through it today and we could have gone on and on. So much talent still left on the board. So I had a fantastic night. I could do this with you guys anytime.
For sure. And it was really great having you on. Where can people reach out to you for, talking maybe a little bit about your picks tonight?
Well, you can always find me on Twitter at SNL Has a Cast. So this is a perfect time for you to take a look at what one of my ultimate casts would be now that I've created this perfect team player group. So, I'm always on Twitter at SNL Has a Cast.
Yeah, and I believe, did you get Instagram? Was that somebody pretending to be you, or was that you?
I haven't. I was not going to mention that because I literally haven't made a single post yet. So I'm not sure how much there is to follow. But yes, I am on Instagram at CanDrewAttitude, which I don't think is a bad pun. And I try and be a positive guy in my life. So yeah, I'm also technically on Instagram as of, I think, yesterday as at CanDrewAttitude.
Okay, well, perfect. Thanks for coming on with us tonight, Haynes. That's Sammy Kay. I'm sorry I took over your hosting role just for tonight, but next Superfan Takeover, I'll be sure to give the hosting keys to the car back to you. Did you enjoy this evening drafting with us?
I had a great time doing this draft. Like I said, not a ton of experience in the draft realm of things, but I have learned a lot of valuable lessons today. Making a draft board is something that's probably super important that I'll definitely do in the future. It was great to kind of not take a backseat, but always a pleasure to share the digital screen with you, John, and the rest of the super fans here. You guys can follow me at @SammyK on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. And I do want to highlight the SNL Stats TikTok. Another thing that John somehow has trusted me with, which I'm definitely very grateful for. We're really starting to put a lot more content out on there. Most recently, we have been breaking down the screen time for the cast members this season, as well as the hosts. Lots of traction on those videos, which I'm super happy about. There's going to be a lot of stuff coming through there throughout the summer. So if you are missing out on SNL, that is a great place to go. Relive some classic memories, and who knows what other sort of things are going to be on there. But definitely give that a follow.
Yeah, Sammy, of course I trust you. You're the TikTok king. There was no other option. So thank you for helping us out with that. I really appreciate it. Bill, it's so great talking SNL with you. Obviously, you're a wealth of knowledge in terms of your history of the show. Did you have fun tonight, and where can people reach out to you?
I had a blast. Part of the fun of doing a draft is knowing that the knowledge of the other people and trying to figure out what their next move is going to be, and then getting angry because they did your next move. So that was a lot of fun with 4 other very knowledgeable SNL fans. You can follow me at BKLove73 on Instagram and Twitter.
Perfect. And Haskell, thank you. I know you brought out a special jersey for the occasion for anybody who's watching on YouTube. So tell the listeners what that is and where they can reach out to you.
I was looking for diamonds in the rough late in the draft, so I had to wear my Tom Brady jersey, see if I could get the GOAT late. But using that sports analogy, the thing that came up the most tonight was how many times did we say, this person came in at a pivotal point in the show and changed the show. And imagine in an actual NFL draft, if you could constantly, you have a Hall of Fame quarterback and you bring in the next Hall of Fame quarterback. That's why we're gearing up to celebrate 50 years of this show. It's every time you think that nobody can be as good as the people I grew up with or from the era before me, somebody else is going to come in and they're going to be incredible. So tonight, I think, was a great time celebrating that. You can find me on Twitter, Andrew E. Haskell. Jokes, some of my stand-up. You can tell me my spec scripts suck if you want, as long as you retweet it. You can also find me. I'm starting to follow in Sammy's footsteps on TikTok. You can find me Andrew Haskell Sketchy. Somebody actually commented on one of my TikToks and said, "Are you the dude from the SNL podcast?" So our fans are there. They're finding us. So it's super exciting. So come follow me on TikTok, Twitter, all that stuff.
Yeah, we love it when people reach out. So please don't hesitate. These guys don't bite. They're all really nice. So feel free to reach out to any of them when you feel like it. So thank you all to the listeners for joining us. If you want to, to comment on our teams or see our teams again, we're going to be, like I said, posting them on social media during the week. So you'll be able to give us your thoughts on everything we did tonight. So make sure to follow at SNL Stats on Twitter or Instagram or TikTok. And, like I said, communicate with us. That's always fun. We would also appreciate a subscription on YouTube and on any podcatcher. Those really help people find the show, especially during the summer months as things are a little bit quieter. The subscriptions really help. So thank you for that. Speaking of the summer months, we are going into a summer schedule following this episode. I think, it is almost the end of June and we haven't stopped all of 2021. You've gotten SNL Stats content basically every single week since Christmas and really only taken off 1 week since the end of September. So we're going to be slowing things down just a little bit and going to a every couple weeks schedule. So in 2 weeks from now, we are going to be back with SNL Trivia, which is a really fun show. We do those shows live where we have two teams compete on their knowledge of SNL Trivia. We also have trivia questions for the chat and you guys can compete along as well. So please check out that show. I think it's going to be really fun and you're going to enjoy it. We'll promote that on our social media and also ask people if they would like to join us and be on teams. We're going to put out a call for team members to come and join us on that show. And then we'll announce future shows down the road. I think we're going to do some summer coverage of some of the summer sitcoms that are coming up later on in the season as we slowly make our way towards season 47 of Saturday Night Live. So like I said, reach out to us at SNL Stats or myself personally at Jon Schneider 24 for anything. Myself and Nicole are in all the DMs talking to everybody. So for everybody who joined us for this one, for the Superfan Takeover in June, the cast draft, thank you so much. We will see you next time.
We're here for the numbers as well. So let's get statistical, so unpredictable here on SNL Stats.